Hey Hunters, Halozu here with more One D&D stuff. And today we're finally on to the Warlock. The last of the mages with a lot to talk about. So, just as a preface, there is a lot different. So, first and foremost, the best change so far, we're back to Pact Magic. It's, oh, so much better with Pact Magic back. So yeah, I do think that that's a great change. Spells prepared hasn't really, well, spells known, because it's not spells prepared. I don't care what they say, it's spells known. They should just keep calling it that. Spells known is just the same. Spell slot progression is unfortunately the same as well. So I do think that they should bring in a spell slot like 6th or 7th level. That's an additional one, and they go up to 5 now. Just to smooth out the progression of it, because right now it's pretty bad. Because you spend so long on 2 spell slots. It's just bad. So I do think having that extra spell slot at 6th level would be nice. You could maybe do it at 5th as well, but I think 6th would be better because you spend like 5 levels at 3 spell slots, while you also spend like 4 at 2, but then the first level at 1, which kind of sucks, but oh well. But overall, the half-caster version just sucked, so it's so good to see uh, the return of Pact Magic. Also, they did lose medium armor training. I'm actually mostly fine with that, but uh, mostly because I felt like it was kind of superfluous to let uh, all warlocks have it, because only Pact of the Blade really needed it, and the others it kind of ended up being, oh, this is a lot better. Uh, so, however, there is an unfortunate loss. As we'll notice, Eldritch Invocations are at first level, and Pact Boons are nowhere to be seen. So, to get this out of the way, Pact Boons are now Invocations. Yeah, we'll get to that. But it is kind of sad to see, like, after the amazing response to Pact Boons here, it's like, this was so awesome. Like, I mean, maybe getting Eldritch Blast and Hex, like, and actually, I will also say, I think having Eldritch Blast and Hex was actually nice, because, and they're nowhere to be seen here, because Eldritch Blast, it was like, thank you. I no longer have to waste my, like, one of my 2 cantrips known to get Eldritch Blast. Thank you. Just, and now it's gone, where it's like, crap. That was really great. And also having Hex by default was like, especially without Patron at first level, so you don't get Patron spells. It was actually really nice that it was like, yeah, you have the 2 main spells you want for free, meaning you can actually choose whatever you want and free up a lot of choice. And I will also say that they still aren't quite there with changing Eldritch Blast and bringing its dominance down a notch, but eh. Also, Hex is back to the original version, which I actually don't like. I liked that they made it a different spell, because uh, in this playtest, it was actually made where Hex, and Hunter's Mark were both actually once per turn. So that was actually really nice, because it's like, oh yeah, you only get it once per turn, which means it doesn't keep stacking with Eldritch Blast. And I was like, okay, I really like this change, because it helps bring Eldritch Blast back in line, as well as stopping Scorching Ray from getting out of hand. But now they've turned back on that, and yeah, I'm not happy with it. I actually liked the Pact Boon in the first one. Like, it's one of those, you got it right the first time. Like, maybe that choosing your spellcasting ability score was cool, but could lead to some crazy stuff where you actually had Pact of the Blade had wisdom, so it's like that's maybe a little too good multi-classing with cleric, but it is what it is. Also, their spell list did get 3 additions. Bane, Detect Magic, and Speak with Animals have all moved over to being baseline, and they can be cast as rituals. So, and I will spoilers, but these 3 spells, their invocations have been removed. So, this is a great benefit to Bane, though. Detect Magic and Speak with Animals, I don't really care about. And I think it was actually nice to have those invocations, even if they could be pretty powerful. But there's also a few others that were really good to take as anyone else. But, it is what it is. I would have liked if more of the ones like Bane got, like, just added to the spell list, but, So there's also the new Magical Cunning. Basically, it's just you can spend a minute, regain half your spell slots. And it's rounded up, too, so, like, once you hit 3 spell slots, you get 2 back, which I think is great. But I do think this could be pulled. I don't think this is enough to make up for the spell slot progression really sucking. So, this is definitely great, though. Like, do not get me wrong. Though it is once per long rest, so I think, heck, I think maybe this could just be all your spell slots by default. Where it's like, yeah, you just take a minute, I've got all my spell slots back. Boom. Just as a way to make it where, yeah, I have access, like, once per day, I can do it for just a minute and not worry about needing the whole rest. So I think it would absolutely be fine if they made Magical Cunning do all. But this is a great addition, and I think, honestly, it would be fine if you got this and Invocations at level 2. Because currently, you do actually get 2 more Invocations at that level. Because you get 3 at that level. Because you only start with 1. And they also go up to 10 now. Where I think it was, yeah, I think this one they had 8. Or no, you end up at 9 now. So yeah, I think just pulling the invocations down by 1, and you don't start with 1. So basically just go back to what this had. Except maybe tweaked a little, but, well, I think the invocation progression is fine. And or maybe you add the 10th invocation at 19th. So it's like at 19th you get 10 invocations. So it's like 2 levels per invocation. I think that would be good. It's what I'd suggest, personally. But, yeah, I mean, Magical Cunning, it's great. Invocations, it's a mess again. Subclasses, so we've got Archvey, Fiend, great old one, of course. And, call me surprised, but, yeah, Celestial's here. Please, Wizards. Like, at the very least, it's a Xanathar subclass that does need some modification, but this needs to be the Hexblade. Or at least what used to be Hexblade. That needs a rework. Because Pact of the Blade, spoiler alert, still has the modifier. Like, we need that patron changed, please. Please update Hexblade. Replace it with something else. Or at least rename it to something more generic. And remove Hex Warrior and stuff. Please. That was like... It's like, yeah, that needed to happen. Like, we need that done. Like, especially because they didn't change too much about Celestial, and it's like, Celestial doesn't need it as bad, in my opinion. Hexblade has been a problem since the beginning. So, yeah. Contact Patron, still around. I think it's unchanged, actually. Yeah. Oh, no, it got moved to 9th instead of 11th. Just moved stuff around. Partly because Mystic Arcanum is back. Hexmaster was removed, but Eldritch Master is now back to 20th, so... Yeah. Mystic Arcanum returning. Thank you. The previous version was like... Yeah, there's really no reason to take anything but Mystic Arcanum 8 times, plus... lessons of the first one. Where it was like, yeah, you take lessons of the first ones for Magic Initiate, and then you just got a bunch of Mystic Arcanums. But this one has its own problems because of the wording. But Eldritch Master, Magical Cunning gives all his spell slots back. I think this could be changed, because I think Magical Cunning could just do it by default. So maybe make it where at level 20 you have infinite uses of Magical Cunning. Maybe even get an extra Magical Cunning use at, I don't know, level 11 maybe, where it's like now you can do it twice per day. So the invocations, there's a lot to talk about. So first off, let's mention several from the other books got brought in. So Eldritch Mind is in from Tasha's. Eldritch Smite from Xanathar's is here. Favor of the Chain Master is replaced by Investment of the Chain Master from Tasha's. Gift of the Depths is here from Xanathar's. Eldritch Mind replaces Hexer. It's here from Tasha's. As I mentioned here. So Hexer was removed. Investments here. And so those were all ported it over. Pact of the Blade, Chain, and Tome are invocations. So, yeah. Pact of the Chain has regressed, where, and they don't mention it here, but it no longer summons a generic familiar. It now goes back to the old version, but with 2 more options. So, yeah. That's not great, Wizards. Not great. Because the previous version, it was like, yeah, like, sure, there's some stuff that could have been better with how they did it, like, Specifically, the type didn't matter too much. Like, it just changed the damage type. And they did have the worst cantrip upgrade by far. Where it's like, yeah, you have infinite range telepathy, and you can use your voice through your familiar, which, yeah. Whoop-de-doo. I wish it came in addition to an upgrade that's like, oh, hey, here's an extra ability depending on your creature type. That's gone. Pact of the Tome does give you a first level spell slot, so once again, they actually move closer and closer to the 5.5 stuff I did. Where it's like, yeah, you get an extra spell slot as Pact of the Tome, which that actually, and I will say this now, I am actually really happy with how they updated Blade and Tome. I just don't like how Chain, it's terrible. I wish they would go back to the previous version. But having them as invocations, I despise. Like, especially because now you can just take all of them and then get the, like, literally any invocations you want from them. So it's like, what's the point of being... There's not any commitment to it. Like, so yeah, I get the idea of, you know, what if we let them, you take a second Pact Boon? That's a neat idea. I just think this needs to be redone so it's not too powerful. Because, like, at second level, you could just have every Pact Boon in the game. There's nothing stopping you from that. And it's utterly ridiculous that you can do it. Other changes, of course. Eldritch Sight, Beast Speech, and... What was it? It was... Which one was it? I'm trying to remember which it was. Wait, did they remove it? I could have sworn they removed the Bane one. Or actually, no, they did... Actually, no, it's not here because they already removed it. So, it's just that the other... I think they might all still be removed. But I know it was removed here in this one, Playtest 5. So I think they just didn't mention that, oh yeah, that's still gone. Also, some stuff got moved forward, which, thank you. Like, Whispers of the Grave is now level 7. Visions of Distance Realm is now level 9. So that was Speak with Dead and Arcane Sight, or Arcane Eye. Otherworldly Leap is now level 2. Thank you. And also, where was the... Ascended Step is level 5. Thank you, Wizards. Thank you. You can now jump. So jump is actually level 2 now, which means you can get it way earlier, which is great. So all those getting moved forward, it's good. Devil Sight is dim light as well as in darkness. Which is actually one of those weird things that it points out, like, wait a second. It didn't affect dim light? It's like no one... So that's more of a clarification that we omitted this. Nobody realized we did this, but it's here. Eyes of the Runekeeper. It's been removed since Comprehend Languages is on the list and can be cast as a ritual, so it's gone. Fiendish Vigor. No longer has you roll the dice for False Life. I mean, I'll be honest, that's slightly annoying because False Life needs that normally. Yet, because this was like the only good way of casting it anyway, you're just making it better. It's like, now you just do the thing that it should do normally. Like, having the temporary hit points be random, it's really bad. Like, False Life is a bad spell normally. Like, it's great that I don't have to roll and I just cast this and boom, max HP. But you could already kind of do that out of combat by saying, oh yeah, I roll until I get max temporary hit points. Gaze of Two Minds is any willing creature, not just humanoids. And you have to be in 60 feet to cast spells through their space, but oh well. It's some nice tweaking. It allows for some more shenanigans. Like, because I think you can actually Gaze of Two Minds your familiar now and use them to cast any spell. Lessons of the first ones can be taken more than once, which, fine, but it doesn't have a level requirement anymore. At least it doesn't say. Life Drinker now does necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage, which is actually nice that you can choose it now. So you can choose something more appropriate. Its healing is connected to your hit dice, which, not bad. One with Shadows lets you cast invisibility without a spell slot while you're in dim light or darkness, so it's just you use the invisibility spell now instead of the weird kind of invisibility. And Thirsting Blade has an upgrade at level 11. We'll get to that mistake later. But an interesting change, Agonizing Blast and Eldritch Spear are no longer just Eldritch Blast invocations. So you get to choose any Warlock cantrip that deals damage and you get it for that one. So Agonizing Blast can basically let you choose any Warlock cantrip and use it. This is a good change, but I do think I would rather have it, and this is certainly better than we had before, but I would like if it was a once per cast per target thing, where it's like, it's a per target effect, where it's like, because that's the main problem with Eldritch Blast right now, is that it just deals so much more absurd damage than it should be, because it keeps stacking. So, especially, like, with this, it's like, you still only choose Eldritch Blast with it, because it's the only one worth using it on. Like, it's so much better than everything else. So, it's a good help that it does affect any cantrip now, but I would like if it was just, it affects all your cantrips, is part of Pact of the Tome, like it was in Playtest 5, where Book of Shadows, its cantrip upgrade was you add your spell mod to your damaging cantrips. So I would have it be once per target per cast, so just so you can't stack Eldritch Blast on one target. So it's not like every Eldritch Blast attack does the full damage, like the D10 plus modifier damage. Instead, if you're against one target, it only takes the plus charisma damage once per cast. But if you hit multiple targets, you can still do that extra damage more. You just can't stack it on a single target. Because that's the biggest problem I have with Eldritch Blast. And this invocation still. But I just think A, shouldn't be an invocation anymore. B, rein in the damage with Eldritch Blast. Because that needs to be reintroduced where, like, that was the best part about the Hex changes. Like, yeah, Eldritch Blast isn't as powerful anymore. Good. Please keep it that way. Like, it's needed to be reined in forever. And this, it's like, it's a step in the right direction at least. And it's better than what we had. And I will say this, overall, this Warlock, it's better than the original. It's better than Playtest 5. It can just be even better. Eldritch Spear is actually the same way, where you choose it, Warlock cantrip deals damage with a range of at least 10 feet. Wise choice there. So it doesn't work with Thunderclap and stuff like that. But you increase its range by 30 feet times your Warlock level, which can be pretty absurd. But it is nice. Like, and heck, you can take Eldritch Spear on Poison Spray, and it becomes actually useful. Unfortunately, Agonizing Blast still exists, so you really want to use it on Eldritch Blast, but So I do think this should apply to all your damaging Warlock cantrips, and maybe just be a 60, and maybe just make it double range instead, so it's like a second double range. So you can't quadruple range, but or have a specification that if you have Spell Sniper, it's triple. So they stack, basically. But this is fine. Like, it's okay. I just think it should be all Warlock cantrips that are applicable, of course. So then investment. Still roughly similar to what it was. Though I do think quick attack should just be baseline. Please. And I do think this should just be baseline, honestly. It's like, because especially for the quick attack and save DC, those should just be default. I shouldn't have to wait till 5th level to get it. It's just, ugh. Lessons of the first one. Yeah, this got changed. So, it used to specify it was first level feat. Pretty sure. Yeah. First level. Yeah, that change, it slightly... Now, granted, I will say, it could be there's another change coming, but... to how the feats work, but this does suggest that you can now take any feat, which means this suggests you can get feats at higher levels that give you stat increases. So this does cause a lot of problems where, now you can just take stat buff feats and buff your stats even more than a fighter can. So it creates a new kind of overpowered invocation, like Mystic Arcanum the last time, where not taking it a bunch is actually detrimental because you can get a lot of stat boosts from it. So I think they should specify that it's like first level feats, or say you don't get increased stats from this, or just fix how feats work. Please, Wizards, that would actually be great. I shouldn't have to choose between stat increases and feats. Please. Please save us. Life Shrinker. You can expend a hit dice now, which I think it's fine. Like, especially if you aren't taking as many short rests, it can be very useful. And it's a way of, like, you're in an emergency, you need to heal, and you can trigger your Life Drinker. It's Thirsting Blade. I think that's good. All these are pretty much the same. I already mentioned that change. So Pact of the Blade, there are a few important notes to take on it. It is similar to what it was before, which actually isn't bad. It's just like, uh, specifically, they removed the uh, part where it has to lack the heavy property. Partly because heavy got changed to where it's now you need a certain strength or dexterity score to be good with it. Though, I do wish they made it where it was your stat to attack with it. So it was like, so it's like, you can have it where it's, you can use a big weapon as a warlock if you've got the charisma, which you should have. But you also get its mastery property now, which is good change. Definitely great change, where it's like, and you can use it as spellcasting focus. So it's like, yeah, that's awesome. It's like, it's back to any weapon. It doesn't have to be one-handed or two-handed, which is good because you now use two-handed weapons again. Especially since you don't get shields by default still. There is the problem that you can't get medium armor by default now, which unfortunately means that we're back to kind of needing Hexblade. Yay. I hate this a lot. Like, and that's a problem I had before, where it's like, Hexblade is just too good with Pact of the Blade. It's like, you can't really play Pact of the Blade without Hexblade. And while it's not as bad, like, you can hit with it, at least, but it would be nice if I didn't need Hexblade now just for the armor bonuses, the extra armor. So I think this does... So I do think that Pact of the Blade, going back to being a Pact boon, of course, at first level, and then have this plus extra proficiencies to give you medium armor as well as shields, perhaps. And then also have a specification that you use charisma for the heavy property instead of strength. And with that, I think it'd be perfect, where it's like, yeah, you do what you're supposed to do. And also, you should note that you use Necrotic, Psychic, or Radiant instead of your normal type. Which, it's fine. It's a good bonus. Might get a bit too powerful, especially against vampires, because Radiant, but oh well. It's a nice change of pace, I will give it that. Pact of the Chain. It's back to the old version with Find Familiar, and Find Familiar is actually the old Find Familiar. I actually kind of like the new one, I'll be honest. Because the new one was kind of like, yeah, it's like you customize your familiar. It's whatever the heck you want. And this, it's gone even further back, because it's like, yeah, we're back to choosing one of 6, and at the very least, they added Slayed Tadpole for in Skeleton, so those aren't bad, but I do feel like I'm still pretty much inclined to pick one of these. Like, you have to pick one, and like, Celestial doesn't have a good choice. Which is funny that that's the one that's here, but yeah. And it's the one that wants Pact the Chain the most. So I think, please go back to the templated version from here. It was so much better. Where it's like, you just chose its creature type. Like, the only problems were, it didn't have another ability for the creature type, and Fiend dealt poison damage. So I think, honestly, they could probably make it where it was like both Aberration and Fey do Psychic, Fiend and Undead do Necrotic. And I think that'd be fine. I don't think anyone would care. But yeah, and then Pact of the Tome, meanwhile, or also, it does have when you take the attack action, you forgo one of your own attacks to let the familiar attack. This does mean it actually works with Thirsting Blade. So, yeah. Yeah. So I think maybe they could, or heck, they could even swap places with, and let the bonus action attack be part of Pact of the Chain baseline, while making it where if you take the attack action, you get it as part of investment. But, yeah, it's, yeah. I think the old version, the previous version was the best we've had. Pact of the Tome. So, yeah. You're back to getting 3 cantrips, which is nice, because that was... Getting only 2 is kind of rough. Even though, yeah, you did get an extra cantrip from before, but it's nice to have 3 again, and 2 first level spells as rituals. You also getting a first level spell slot, which is great, and it's a spellcasting focus, so getting the extra spell slot, though it is once per long rest, actually, but yeah, I think it'd be nice if it was just a normal spell slot for you, rather than just once per rest, or you got more as you leveled up, maybe. I don't know, but it's fine. Thirsting Blade. So 5th level, it's normal. When you reach level 11, you get 2 extra attacks. What the hell, wizards? Why would you do this? Warlock does not need triple attack. Pact of the Blade does not need this. And, like, why the hell did you give a caster triple attack? Give it to Barbarian, or better yet, give it to freaking Monk. Don't give it to Warlock. Like, why? Just why? This doesn't need to be here. They don't need it. So, yeah. This is just overpowered as hell. Like, why? Please, remove this immediately. Kill it with fire. I don't want to see it here again. Because it's just disgusting. Like, you give it to Warlock, a class that doesn't need to be able to triple attack. Like, so what? Eldritch Blast is kind of powerful. Like, it needs to be nerfed anyway. Anyway. Yeah. So, on to subclasses now. Arcfey. So, patron spells, it's the new expanded spell list. And they added Misty Step. So, Steps of the Fae is basically like it has modifications to Misty Step, so that's kind of why it's on your spell list. Misty Escape also modifies it. Beguiling Defenses now reacts to taking damage. Bewitching Magic is another improvement to Misty Step. So basically, it's a bunch of Misty Step stuff, which is kind of interesting. So, Steps of the Fae, and I think that's the only change, is that you have Misty Step. But Steps of the Fae, it's like you have Charisma extra uses of Misty Step each day. And Misty Step is still very powerful. And I honestly think Misty Step is better than it should be right now, because it's a bonus action. So I think it should take up your movement, where it's like, have it take up like 20 feet of your movement or something like that. So it's not a double speed. It's not like a better bonus action dash is my main thing. But basically, you get free uses per long rest, which is great. And whenever you cast it, you get 1 to 2 things. You either get Refreshing Step, so whenever you teleport, you can give a creature in 10 feet 1d10 temporary hit points. Or Taunting Step, which creatures in 5 feet of where you left have disadvantage on attack rolls against creatures other than you. That one's just weird. I'll be honest. Taunting Step, like, Refreshing, like, both of them are kind of odd because they're off roll. And Taunting Step, it just feels weird. Like, because it's the space you left, meaning that you teleport away and the creatures have disadvantage. So, I get the flavor they're going for, but on most builds, I don't ever want to use Taunting Step, especially because it means I had to be next to the enemies and teleport away. Like, I think that should be changed up to be the reverse, where it's, or perhaps make it where it's either maybe add a second one where it's Distracting Step and Taunting Step, with Taunting Step being when you teleport to people, it does the same thing. Like, it does this, but when you, instead of space you left, the space you enter is where it happens. Whereas Distracting Step would be whenever you teleport away from people, they just have, like, disadvantage on attack rolls against you, or something like that. So it's, I just think Taunting Step right now, it's pretty bad. Refreshing Step, it's okay. But Taunting, I'd only ever use it on Pact of the Blade, and even then, it's really weird with how it works. Misty Escape. So you can do it in reaction, Misty Step in reaction to taking damage. And you have a new option, which, like, you know, you become invisible now. And Dreadful Step, which creatures within 5 feet of it make a wisdom save or take damage. And I think both of these are just better. Like, they are just better. Because Dreadful Step, I think, you know, oh, you're leaving, and it's actually good, where it's like, oh gosh, I'm leaving. Especially with the reactive one, it's like, yeah, it's like you turn invisible or that. It's just better. I'll be honest. It kind of just replaces them. So maybe if it was, but yeah, it's just kind of weird. Beguiling Defenses, you mean to Charmed. And whenever a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can use reaction to take half the damage. And the target must make a Wiz save or take psychic damage equal to the amount you take. And you only get once per long rest, but you can expend spell slots to do it more. This is fine. It is kind of weird that you have 2 reactions now, but they do have separate uses, so sometimes you might want to save your Misty Step uses for other stuff, and then use Beguiling Defenses instead, which I think it's fine. It's not like they're using the same resource after all. And then also, 14th level Bewitching Magic. Whenever you use Enchantment Illusion spell as an action with a spell slot, you can do Misty Step now. Which is actually pretty absurd. Because you can turn invisible and then make a spell attack or something like it's certainly pretty crazy, but it is Enchantment or Illusion, so it's not too absurd. But there are some silly things you can get to doing. Overall, I think Arc Fate, it's cool. And I do like the idea that they modify Misty Step. I just think maybe there should be some modifications to where, because Refreshing Step and Taunting Step are pretty bad right now, where, because I think Refreshing Step could also use, like, plus Charisma, temporary hit points. So it's like D10 plus Charisma. Or maybe make it 1D8 plus Charisma instead. So it's more consistent with the temporary hit points gained. And Taunting Step should be when you teleport 2 people for Pact of the Blade. And also, like, because it's only useful on Pact of the Blade. You don't want to use it as anyone else. And then also have an alternative to it that is more appropriate for the non-Blade pacts. But overall, I think this is an interesting direction. It's better than it was before, that's for certain. Celestial just has the patron spells change, and Celestial Resilience works with Magical Cunning. So, Healing Light's the same, spell list is the same. My gosh, Wizards, please buff the hell out of Guardian of Faith, because it sucks. It's Celestial Resilience. Now triggers whenever you use your Magical Cunning or finish a short or long rest. So, it basically just, it triggers more. And everything else is the same. The Fiend, it's just been modified, so it's like, basically it's just how the others work, because also you don't get the free cast because you have Magical Cunning. Fine. Dark One's Blessing also works with whenever any enemy in 10 feet of you dies. Thank you. Just thank you. I think a lot of people can agree. It's like, the amount of times you kill someone specifically, it can be pretty bad sometimes. So having it where it can trigger on an enemy just dying near you is fine. Dark One's Luck, once per roll. Hurl Through Hell is now 8d10 damage, and it incapacitates the target while they're hurtling through the lower planes. Mostly because of a weird corner case thing that you can do, where basically, and this is one of those things that, like, you don't really think of until it's pointed out. It's like, wait, you could totally just cast, like, Plane Shift as you're getting hurled through hell and ignore it. So, they did nerf the damage a little bit, but that's fine, honestly. But basically, it's incapacitated till it ends. So, you know, you hurl it through hell, it's incapacitated, they come back, and you can use a 5th level spell slot to redo it. Or just a spell slot to redo it. Great Old One! So, Awakened Mind is now 2-way. So, they can talk back, effectively. Psychic Spells is a new 3rd level feature, which is interesting, but then again, Awakened Mind, it's more of a utility thing, so it's fine to have an extra thing. Clairvoyant Combatant replaces Entropic Ward, and uses your Telepathic Bond to mess with people. Eldritch Hex is a new level, feature, and also, they have Hex on their patron spells now. Then Create Thrall. You get Summon Aberration for free, basically. So actually, they don't have Hex's spell, but also, I just noticed this doesn't give you Hex for free, which is really annoying. But like mine, it's just 2 ways. Psychic Spells. This is a fun one. So you can cast enchantment and illusion spells without verbal or somatic components, and all your damage type, like all your damage, can now be psychic. Which is really good, actually. So, this actually makes Poison Spray, you could absolutely go with Poison Spray, as it's now psychic. This does a lot of silly stuff, which is hilarious. But then Clairvoyant Combatant. Basically, when you make a Telepathic Bond, you can force it to make a Whiz save, and on a failed save, it has disadvantage on attack rolls against you, and you have advantage on attack rolls against that creature. And once you do this, you need a short or long rest. Or you can expend a spell slot to redo it. And honestly, I will say the level requirements are kind of weird because of having pact magic. I feel like some of these wordings are unchanged, but it may also be because of multiclassing stuff where, for the sake of multiclassing stuff, you can't use any spell slot to do it, which is fair. But, yeah. Clairvoyant Combatant's an interesting one. Thought Shield, Resistance Psychic. Yeah, it's about the same. Eldritch Hex. So you always have Hex prepared. And when you cast Hex, it also has disadvantage on saving throws of that ability. Oh lord, is this one powerful. Yeah. Yeah, just casually giving people disadvantage on saving throws of a certain stat. Yeah, that's gonna have some absolutely evil stuff going on. And honestly, this might be too powerful. Just casually giving them disadvantage on their on the saving throw that you're targeting the most. Yeah, it's definitely cool, but I do think it's maybe a bit too powerful, perhaps. And of course, it doesn't give you Hex as an additional. It doesn't say it counts against your spells known, so yeah, it would be nice if it specified, hey, it doesn't count against your spells known as well. Though I do think Hex could just be moved to just be a default, you always have it, like you always know it, and yeah. But this is a neat one where it's very powerful, but it's fun. And create Thrall. You always have summon an aberration known. Because the summon spells from Tasha's are coming into the player's handbook, which it's great. And you can modify it to not need concentration. It does make the duration 1 minute, but that's not fine. It's fine. But you can also give it temporary points equal to your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier, so yeah. And whenever the aberration hits a creature under the effect of your Hex, it deals extra psychic damage equal to the bonus damage. Which is nice too, actually. Though I do wish they still had the previous Hex rather than the original. But, oh well. This overall, great. And all in all, I think the subclasses are pretty good. It's just the only one that needs... Like, Celestial should be replaced by what is currently the Hexblade, and just rework it to be... It's still... Like, it can keep most of what it had before. It's just the blade stuff, it's cut out. Like, basically the stuff that made it Hex Blade. So the blade part is gone. Remove it. That would mean changing their entire spell list, but that's fine. I'm sure they can find a lot of shadow magic stuff that, like, fits. And basically just make a generic Shadowfell patron. So it's like, you know, maybe the Shadow Lord. Totally unbiased name there. And make it where it has most of what it did before. It's just, it doesn't have Hex Warrior and the proficiencies. Instead, bring back Pact Boons at first level. And then add a new invocation at 11th level or something. You can only take once that gives you an extra Pact Boon, or at least a passive. So, like, and then also upgrade Pact of the Chain to be what it was before in Playtest 5, with a better level 5 upgrade. And also bring back the idea that Thirsting Blade and Agonizing Blast are just part of Pact of the Tome and Chain. Maybe even make Investment part of Pact to the Chain. because I think that would be nice. And just have it where, yeah, the Pact Boons are back by default. There is a way to get a second Pact Boon, but not a third. And maybe it's even a weaker one where you don't get the upgrade as well. So you only get the upgrade to your main one. So it's like Pact of the Tome gets Agonizing Blast is there. Level 5 upgrade. Pact of the Blade has Thirsting Blade, and that's another regression where it was really nice that Pact of the Blade was actually, like, it had their invocation freed up. Because right now, it's actually even worse, because it's like, yeah, there's no reason to not take... Because you still have Eldritch Smite, which, like, yeah, you just have to wait a level to get it, or something. But, yeah, it's kind of a mess, but I think they're getting there. But then also with Pact Boons, you have an extra proficiency or two. So Pact of the Tome gets a knowledge skill. Pact of the Chain gets an interaction skill. And then Pact of the Blade, of course, gets medium armor and shields. And I think that would be really good. And would actually make Warlock almost perfect. Like, they're still so close. Like, this is good. It's just the invocation thing. They're still blundering with it. And it's just... And at least with this version, I can confidently say we are almost in the right place. We just need Pact Boon returning to first level, Eldritch Blast for free, maybe even Hex for free. I wouldn't mind it, but Eldritch Blast for free, definitely. And then have an extra proficiency thrown in with the Pact Boons, while having Pact of the Blade and Tome be like they are here. And then Pact of the Chain reverts to something more akin to Playtest 5 with Pact Familiar. And yeah, I think it's almost perfect. And also, of course, Thirsting Blade doesn't get triple attack anymore. Give that to Monk instead. And I also will give a... Like, if they're still working on Playtest 8, Wizards, and you're seeing this, also, please give Bards default Vicious Mockery. Please. Please save us from the hell that is what Vicious Mockery does, because I will actually bluntly say it's actually worse than Eldritch Blast is on Warlock. As much of a problem as it is, Warlock at least had the illusion of choice. And in this one, that is more of a thing where it's a lot more useful. Oh, and actually, before I forget, I will also point out that Celestial still has their old Radiant Soul. So, and it does actually, I just realized, that actually stacks with Agonizing Blast, which pretty sure it's not supposed to do. So you can actually get double... I just noticed that. Oh, gosh. I just remembered that. That definitely needs more of a change now. Because that's kind of powerful. Like, granted, I get that, yeah, like, compared to Eldritch Blast, it's actually not bad, but it is... You only need one hit to do it. So, yeah, it's kind of an awkward one, actually. Yeah. But anyway, I do hope that stuff gets changed up and reworked. I do hope that they bring back Pact Boons, because that's another weird thing where Pact Boons were so amazing. Like, they had it so good. And the response was, oh yeah, we're going to take away the one actually good change from Playtest 5 for Warlock. Well, one of the two best changes, because there's also the Thirsting Blade is a... But basically, Pact Boon was like the shining beacon of Playtest 5 Warlock. It was the one good thing. And then they threw it away in this one. Why? Just why? But anyway, without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and so feel free to stay tuned to more videos by liking and subscribing and stuff. And also, if you want, comment any like thoughts and notes about what I said and all that. Not sure when the next videos will be, or what exactly they'll be, though I think I might be returning to 5.5 stuff to kind of give some previews as to what I've been up to lately. But anyway, without further ado, I'll see y'all next time! Halo Zoo, out!